current owner sufficient time to go through this process, but at the same time, not really give him preferential treatment on the process of a ratification hearing. So it'd be for Tuesday, September 10th at 7:45.
Do you need a motion? Do you need a motion,
Yes,
Sean?
please.
Yeah, I do, I'm sorry, I didn't know if you were
That's all right.
talking.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The board has, the next is the dog hearing with Richard LeBlanc. Pam, if you want to swear people in.
Okay, well, let's see. Everyone's going to be speaking. I need you to give me your name first. So give me your name, and then I can put my thing, and then we can ask for you guys in.
Brian Klein.
Okay, Brian Kling, yeah, okay. Will you be talking?
Elizabeth Fieri, yes, please.
Elizabeth. How do you spell your last name? I'm sorry.
Fieri.
Okay.
Richard LeBlanc. L-E capital B L-A-S.
Okay. Officer. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else in the front row? And your name is in? Rashid. Okay. No. And okay. And Chief, will you be speaking also?
I'm not sure, but yeah, just
Okay. Okay, if everybody could stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth during these proceedings with the Selectmen?
I do.
Okay, and we get this.
And
Let me just stop.
we'll start with you, Maureen.
Oh, okay, I wasn't here for this incident, but this is a multiple bite dog. The dog, the owner was given a notice by Twin Lakes to remove the dog immediately, which he did comply with. The dog is no longer at Twin Lakes. It is now at 7 Mountain View Road in Franconia, New Hampshire, with its original breeder.
Maureen, could you say, could you give a little more, I know you weren't there for the incident, obviously, could you give a little more background?
Yeah, well,
When did the incident occur? Was this a dog biting
Yeah,
dog?
that
Was
was
this a
May
dog biting?
18th. And this paperwork right here is from the 21st of May. That the dog was turned over to New Hampshire back to his breeder at 2:50 p.m. on the 21st. We do have previous incidents from Gia. Gia was put on.
G is the dog.
Gia is the German Shepherd. She got loose on at least 3 reported occasions and has bitten other dogs. She has been dog aggressive and bit them in the hindquarters. Mr. LeBlanc made arrangements for Ms. Sheehan to have her vet bills paid. But then the dog got out again accidentally and got out again. Subsequently, ending up biting one dog and then injuring the dog owner in the face. So at that point, the Twin Lakes management decided they would fine the dog owner if it wasn't removed immediately, $100 a day per day that it was still on property. So he complied with that. Unfortunately, he did not comply with the fact that the dog was on quarantine. I made contact with the breeder up in New Hampshire and ensured that the dog was on quarantine for the rest of the duration of the quarantine period. I do have a letter which I submitted to the board of all the transfer of the paperwork and transfer of the ownership of the dog.
Is the individual whose dog was bit here?
This is one case.
This is the first dog, like 9-pound Shih Tzu. She got bit in the hindquarters, in the back leg, right side, puncture wounds inside and outside. I had to put compresses on it. She was on 2 medications, and she got And this is the inside of the leg where she got bit. This is the, I'm sorry, this is the outside. This is the inside of the leg. And this is the bite through her coat. And she had soft tissue bruising, which gave her more pain than the puncture was. It bit and tore right through her coat, and went right through her shoulder blades. And so I would like to see the dog banned for life from the property. Because we lied to the dog and said, oh yeah, we'll keep him on a leash, and was not kept on a leash. Lied to 2 or 3 different people saying, yes, we'll keep him on a leash, and he did not. And I would like to state the fact that when this dog bite occurred December 25th, Mr. LeBlanc grabbed me not once but twice, followed me half the way home, begging me not, stop, please don't, please don't. I didn't know what he was talking about, but I found out the next day that he was warned by the maintenance man, James, who works on the property. He saw the dog off leash twice and warned Mr. LeBlanc to keep the dog on a leash, and he didn't.
I appreciate your statements, but you're making statements that somebody else made to you, and just stick to the things that happened to you that you can testify to.
Just for the audience, I understand that you're trying, the mics aren't close to you, but unfortunately you also still have people upstairs which are causing a little noise. So if you could speak more loudly when you speak, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
What is the current disposition of the dog? Is this transfer a temporary transfer?
No,
It's a permanent transfer?
This has been signed over back to the breeder. It is no longer in the state.
Okay.
It is no longer Mr. LeBlanc's property. It is back to the original breeder. As per his agreement when he purchased the dog. If there was any reason that the dog needed to be returned, to return it to the breeder.
And the quarantine period has expired as well?
It is.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can you just explain the quarantine period real quick?
The quarantine period was done by the animal inspector. You might want to get it from the horse's mouth.
10-day quarantine period from the day after the bite starts. It's to protect the dogs and the people if a person happens to get bit against rabies.
Okay, thank you.
So effectively, the dog's not coming back.
Correct.
So there is really not much for us to do other than,
Well, the board,
we could say that,
If the
order it
dog-
not to come back.
right, well, no, you can't ban the dog.
Okay.
That's against state law.
Okay.
What you can do is make a decision that if the dog, for some reason, is returned to Halifax, that the town will have a standing order to take the dog and have it euthanized. You can't ban the dog. That's
Okay.
not an
Yeah,
option.
okay.
I mean, the board could take other action concerning the dog. The board could, allow the dog, if it was returned to Halifax, with whatever restrictions you wanted, but you also have the ability to order the dog to be euthanized if it comes back inside the town limits.
So effectively, there would be no harm in us doing that, ordering the dog to not come back to town, and/or if the dog were to come back to town, it would be subject to being taken and euthanized.
Well, what has the breeder said?
I spoke to the breeder today, and the breeder wants to keep Gia in New Hampshire, has no intention of wanting to return here.
Okay. Gordon? Any questions? Just one moment, Mr. LeBlanc.
Is this typical when a dog's bitten multiple times? Does a standing order if the dog's, has the board done that before?
We have ordered a dog euthanized after several incidents and bites. There is an appeal period after that.
Okay.
In fact, we're dealing with that in different
Yeah,
And,
situations.
all right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Can I address the committee, please?
Sure.
Can I come up and address everybody?
Yeah.
Well, you can address us from there, or you can come up front.
Come up front, yeah.
First of all, I just want to say I'm very sorry for my neighbors, for the actions
Mr. LeBlanc.
of what happened
you need to address
okay,
that.
so what happened with my dog. June of last year, I was in the process of going through a divorce. I currently was staying with my parents at Twin Lakes. My dog came on the property after my father took a turn for the worse, being ill. He's a retired vet. He's going to be 80 years old this July. I was asked by my mother to stay and care for my dad. In 2008, my daughter, who is now almost 15 years old, was diagnosed with leukemia at 3.5 years old. I have always rescued dogs. Gia was approached by me by Eurohunt German Shepherds by Colleen Gargano, who I went to high school with and graduated with in 1988. Knew what I went through with my daughter and wanted one of her dogs to have a good home, because in the world of Facebook and stuff, after I just put down my last dog of sickness, I said my next dog was going to be a German Shepherd, because I was raised with them when I lived in Canada as a child. She approached me, even though I wasn't ready for a dog yet, to take one of her dogs and wanted Gia to be a part of something of my daughter's sickness and well-being. Originally, Gia was going to be an ADA dog from the American Disability Act as a volunteer therapy dog to bring to Children's Hospital with kids that have cancer to do pet therapy. I took her through canine communications in Orwell, through obedience training. Unfortunately, things changed in my situation, in my marriage, and I separated. After being with my father and taking care of him and understanding that I wanted to take another turn with Gia, and my daughter and I wanted to get back on that and do this with vets and seeing all the therapy dogs at the VA hospitals. It was a big adjustment for Gia and I'm so sorry. She was used to a single family home, a backyard. Yes, you're right. Maintenance did approach me. I wasn't real aware. Gia's used to being off leash through training, obedience training. The first incident on December 25th, Christmas Day. I had Gia on each other leash. We're out in the backyard. I'm trying to load presents to the house, get my parents into the car, this and that. I am very sorry for the incident that happened. Barbara was walking down the street. I had Gia in the backyard. She has her dog on one of those tethered 20-foot leashes. I'm not making any excuses whatsoever. The dog starts barking at Gia. Gia starts barking, extended her leash. She just got a new collar for Christmas and slipped out of it. It scared Barbara.
No, it didn't.
Barbara picked the dog up and said Gia was barking at the dog. Apparently bit the dog. I don't think intentionally, because this dog, I can show you proof of Facebook, the training, Instagram. I just want to please just let me state my case. Please.
Well, but let me put it this way. I understand your feelings. You were going through some changes with your father, moving into circumstances. But the only thing that I need for you right now, and we've heard you, I think everyone understands, is
you haven't.
Do you?
I'm trying to explain what happened in all situations, please.
Well, can you stick to point?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sticking to the point, because there's a moral to all of this at the end. The second incident with my neighbor, the boxer, yes, I had Gia on the leash. I was up in the backwoods. It was raining. No. The boxer and I started barking. Gia got away from me. Yes, I understand they got into it. Her husband approached me afterwards. We talked about it. I was very apologetic about it. I am so sorry. I am going to take full accountability for my dog's actions. The third incident, which just happened, was I was leaving to go to my niece's play. I wasn't even involved in this. We had the storm door open. Everyone was saying, come on, let's go, come on, girls, let's go, with my daughter, my niece, whatever. Gia's used to hearing that about going into the car. She slipped out the storm door. I usually back my car in, I had it forward. She went around the back, she saw my neighbor's dog, the dog stopped barking, Gia took off. I can't say if Gia did that to the neighbor or if it happened when the dog picked up. It doesn't, it's irrelevant of the whole situation that's in hand. All I can say is I am truly very sorry for my dog. That dog was my life. That dog is what gave me therapy, my daughter therapy. My father came very attached to it. It's a big adjustment. I don't know all the rules and stuff with animal control, animal inspectors. I understand the whole quarantine thing, but I get a letter that my dog needs to be removed immediately. I am in my parents' home. They're going to be told they're going to be fined $100 a day. I call the first person I know who was supposed to be a friend, was the original breeder of Eurohunt German Shepherd. She says, bring Gia to us. She can stay with us. You can come visit her. We'll FaceTime. We'll make it all work until either your arrangements change or you could do, make a different situation. I put my trust into that. Yes, I drove 3.5 hours to Franconia, New Hampshire to give my dog to someone I trusted, thinking that I could have an opportunity to readjust the situation and work on this. I didn't know, I understand the quarantine now. I've had a little time to clear my head, but it was a very emotional moment for me and a rational and emotional decision I had to make. I honestly believe, I wish I had Gia here because she's not an aggressive dog. I understand what happens. She has no history at all.
I'm afraid I have to disagree with you.
Okay, I understand why you would. I understand why you would.
There is history.
Okay, but this is a German Shepherd. They're already almost like discriminated against because they're a big dog. I understand how someone can fear that. She has a history. She got bit by a German Shepherd. I understand how she feels. She told me this when she came into my backyard one day and I was up at work. I understand.
Excuse me, I'm going to have to cut you off here.
Okay.
Okay, because first of all,
Go ahead.
The situation is now before this board to vote, and my vote's going to be that the dog does not return to town. If he does, it'll be euthanized. Because it's shown...
I will fight that.
Yeah,
Could I say something?
I will fight that.
You can't. There's an appeal period.
There's no
You can
Could I
appeal
say
it.
something,
You can feel it.
please?
If I knew I had an opportunity and I was thinking under the whole quarantine thing and I had time to make different arrangements or work something out and be more rational about it, I would have
Could I say
taken
something, please?
a different approach.
Can I say something, please?
You're
done.
going by a couple of incidences that happened. This is a big dog against a small dog. I understand.
No, you don't understand. See, I used to breed German Shepherds, and not every Shepherd is vicious or disliked. Doberman pinchers at one point, the Shepherds have gone past
Could I
that.
say something, please?
Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to have to cut you off. We've heard what you have to say. I understand what you have to say. But my vote will be, I don't know what the other boards will be, is that the dog does not come back to town. If it does, be euthanized because it is vicious.
No, it won't be
It is
euthanized.
aggressive. Well, the
It's
thing
not
is,
aggressive.
If it comes across that border, we will have the police department down there.
I respect that.
Okay, so that's it.
You also have to understand that our responsibility
Yes.
is to the other residents of the
And I
town.
agree with that.
We appreciate your
I agree with that.
concerns here, but
And I
that is not my
understand their
primary
concern.
concern. My primary concern is to protect the residents.
Now,
of
my
the-
primary concerns is why is not animal control, animal inspectors, why is the condo association telling me I have a certain amount of time? Also, I have a dog under a 10-day quarantine. Like, I'm battling two things here. There's no communication between the town or I, right?
We're not chastising you for the quarantine. We're not
I'm
going
sorry about that.
there. Well, you did what you had to do. I personally...
I did what I was forced to do.
Well, or had to.
Not what I wanted to do,
Well,
what I
what you
was
had
forced
to
to
do.
do.
Well, whether you get rid of the dog or not, based on the information that's presented
Yes.
tonight, I would still vote to euthanize the dog.
Why?
Because the dog has been aggressive and you didn't have control over the dog.
Okay, I understand.
There's 3
that.
incidents. How many
Okay.
incidents do we let it go? I mean, there has to be a point here where it stops.
I get that. I understand about the incidences. I'm just, I know nothing I'm gonna say is gonna change the situation.
Yeah.
The next time wouldn't be just.
My dog has a right not to be in Halifax, okay, I understand that. But she has a right to be rehomed or go back with my wife or home.
That depends on whether or not you want to move to another town or take the dog out, because the dog,
Right.
if the dog comes back, one way or another, the dog will be removed from town or euthanized.
You know what?
It's as simple
Well, we
simple as
can't
that.
remove it. We-
As sad as it sounds, I almost feel more comfortable having my dog euthanized than knowing that my breeder lied to me. Her intentions are just to puppy mill her and breed her. Okay? Like, this is.
I can't speak to that.
We're not going
I have
there.
no idea, we're not going to go there. So you've had your opportunity, have your say. If you excuse me, we got to make a decision.
Okay, I appreciate your time, and I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. It wasn't my.
Mr.
Okay,
You
I'm
need to
very
direct the
sorry.
comments.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
I'm very sorry. I'm sorry you feel that way about the dog being a breeder of past, but I can prove to you under the American Disability Act that she was going through and had all the rights, and she was not an aggressive dog. She was just in an adjustment period. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
I'd like to dispute what he said.
Please.
My dog did not bark at him. My dog was not the first dog that was charged. The golden retriever a week before was charged, not
Excuse me.
by his dog.
You can talk about your dog. Shouldn't be talking about another dog because it doesn't relate to your eyewitness that you didn't witness it, you didn't see it. So we can leave it at
Did
that.
not bark at his dog. We were walking, minding our own business. The dog came out of nowhere off leash and charged my
They
dog.
got off.
I think we're beyond that.
I'm fine with taking a vote after hearing.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I would make a motion that the dog be euthanized if it comes back to town.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm done with that.
We'll bring this to another level, I guess.
Does the animal control have...
You know what, I'm bringing a whole break, I gotta go.
The animal control...
I'm sorry, I can't do
Back to another
I'm sorry, I
town.
gotta go.
If the dog comes back to another town,
We have no jurisdiction over,
jurisdiction we have is-
jurisdiction we have is in the town of Halifax.
on the next
Well,
town.
we won't know.
You're being dramatic. I mean, this is dramatic.
Ma'am, we don't, there's no way to track the dog. We know the dog went up to New Hampshire. If it goes someplace else, we won't know that.
But if we ever found out, is there a responsibility to go on that town where that dog was residing? Is there any
We
responsibility?
will make every effort to notify a town if it comes back to Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. I just worry about the next town if where it goes. I can sympathize with all his things that are going on in his life, but the bottom line is, he's irresponsible because the dog was off leash
Yeah.
and isn't straightforward.
We made a decision and don't need for any more statements.
Okay?
Appreciate your thoughts.
Appreciate your thoughts.
We need to.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
It's okay.
all right.
My dog has flashbacks when he sees a big dog. That's how traumatized.
You have flashbacks when you see a
Excuse
big
me.
dog.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's enough.
I apologize for talking about it.
The town of Halifax made me forced to remove my dog under 2 situations, 24-hour notice and under a 10-day quarantine. I feel this town is also responsible. For me, it's like giving away a child, okay? To you, to everyone else, it might be a dog.
I don't want to belabor this, but we didn't order you to remove it from Twin Lakes.
No, Twin Lakes did.
Yeah, so we're
So
not
you
taking
need
any
to take it up
responsibility
with
for
Twin
that.
Lakes.
This is private property.
Right.
That's, they're under different
yeah.
management and
I
they can't do
understand,
that.
but okay, so.
And somebody agreed to the rules and regulations, so when they signed on to the master deed over there.
But shouldn't there be some sort of communication between the town of Halifax, private property, if an incident like this happens again, that animal control, animal inspectors are both, everyone is on board, and a notice like that shouldn't be sent to a resident when the dog is under quarantine?
But that's where you live. You
That's
chose.
where I reside, yes.
Well, you have to live by those rules that you chose to live under.
But Brian's telling me, I could have been fined $500 for taking a dog off a quarantine. That's a state thing, that's a law.
Yeah, but we didn't do that.
But you are part of Halifax. You're part of
So they-
Halifax.
so they-
You work for
so they-
Halifax. You don't work for
It's gonna be
Halifax,
going,
right?
Yeah, you gotta
continue on with our meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish.
You guys are just disregarding all this. I mean, you're not getting like,
No, you're not, let me explain something to you, you're not getting it.
Oh,
You have one,
I get it very well.
at this point in time, you think that by talking to us at this point is gonna change, nothing's gonna change. You didn't take responsibility for the dog got like loose 3 times,
Right.
attacked other individuals as well as the person,
Did it
and
happen?
that ends the story. We don't have anything else to
That's your
discuss.
say. everything.
Well, you'll have your chance when you appeal
right?
it. That's why there's an appeal
I
process. You
understand that.
will have that
I'm
opportunity.
very sorry for all these incidents. I'm truly, truly sorry. What I'm trying to get across here is I had to make an emotional decision on a drop of a dime between the town of Halifax, a quarantine, and a private property. Why is there no communication between the town and properties on these procedures? I was forced to remove my dog.
From property that you didn't own, that you weren't paying rent on, that you was.
You know my situation. You don't know if I'm paying
You
rent
just
or not.
said you were staying with your parents.
So does that mean I'm not paying rent?
Yeah, we gotta end this.
What gives you the right to say that?
Sir,
What?
sir,
I provide for my parents.
sir, you have the right to appeal this decision. You'll receive notice
That's
and
wrong to
and
say.
information about that. The
You
board,
think I'm just living off my parents? I'm 50 years old. You think I'm just like...
Sir, we're gonna have to have you removed if you don't calm yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Do we get notified if he appeals it? So
Yes.
we can
Yes.
appeal?
you do.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry.
I'm sorry.
Very
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Don't talk to me.
I'm very sorry, but I was wanting to say that I don't pay rent. I have a house that I own too in Marlborough.
The next subject on the agenda is a continuation of the revocation hearing for the Halifax Country Club. I'm recommending the board continue that for 2 weeks till the 25th.
We need a motion for
Yes.
that. I would move the
25th.
to the 25th.
Second.
Right,
In
that's when-
favor? Aye.
That will be, just got the time right, that will be for 8 o'clock.
What time is that?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
We're at 8:15. The board also had a meeting with George Latini, wait, George, if you want to come up? Yeah. Mr. Latini's here. He would like, while he's not changing the corporation or the license or anything, he's changing the DBA, in essence, the popular name, doing business as, for BR's Mount Ponce Inn. It does require a meeting with the board, various paperwork, but doesn't require a public hearing or notice to butters or anything, so he's here to do that.
What's the new name?
It's Troy's place.
After the night, I'm gonna
That's where you go all the time.
Hold on.
There you go. The restaurant side, the big side of the parking lot, that's gonna be called, with all this stuff going on.
Lakeside
Yeah,
Villa.
Lakeside Villa, there you go. I'm like, what do we call it?
It's a good thing some of us knew.
Lakeside Villa, basically this is gonna be the function side of the business. So, and then we're gonna end up, hopefully, as we go through the process of all the other stuff, we'll get it all done and we'll have the other side will be more of the restaurant side, so.
So is the liquor license going to be for both the function room and for the,
I'm gonna be back in front of you guys, hopefully in a couple of months, to expand the liquor license, to bring it over to BR's side. And we're gonna slowly in the process of moving the kitchen out and then expanding BR's seating, which I'll be with upstairs with planning and everybody else, and just moving seats around. We're not gonna increase any seating, we're just moving it around. So, but the restaurant's pretty much, there's no more, it's just one big room now, so.
So you're gonna have line dancing, square dancing, stuff like that?
Maybe.
The girls will
Love
laugh.
more weddings, yeah. These are my 2 daughters, they came in for the action. I was like,
I thought they were
They're
your
gonna entertain,
bodyguards.
I said, you get to see how small government works, there you go.
or doesn't, as the case may be.
Well,
So-
sorry you had to witness that.
It's a good thing, get to watch, so.
Gordon?
So a question on if you expand alcohol sales to the other side, does he need 2 licenses?
No, he'll need
No,
one license, but the
one license.
description of the license will change.
Okay.
And he'll come back in for that.
When they added BRs, they never came in front of the board to expand the liquor license. And we really never found that out until we were talking one day.
Yeah,
so-
it was just going to be a sub
And there was,
shop.
yeah, and there was no need to, because we're only doing breakfast and
Yeah.
it was just sandwiches, so at
Okay.
some point, we'd like to do is maybe make that into a pub style
Yeah.
down the road, so.
George, what's
Sounds
the
good.
schedule look like at this point?
It's all gonna depend, to be honest with you, a lot of the construction is, we're gonna try to get the next 3 or 4 months in front of the board and kind of give you guys an overview. I have an engineer coming in and some other stuff, but we're gonna be playing this kind of what we have booked and we don't. I mean, we might be doing a lot of this in January, February, like we just did the restaurant, we just closed it, gutted it,
Right.
because we want to open up a couple of walls, and so it's gonna take a little longer than I wanted to, but we gotta play with, keep it open so we can keep running, and all the people we
Well,
have,
it's
so.
function season, so you want.
Yeah, we're still booking, we're booking a ton of weddings now that we've redone, the main room is done, the big ballroom's been all redone, and now the restaurant's completely redone.
You guys gonna have your prom in there too?
So, but the functions are occurring right now, right now?
Functions
you're-
and weddings are
Yeah.
going on, and we're selling for 2020 and this year, so they keep motoring. We're getting more and more weddings and stuff, so it's just a matter of when I can down certain rooms and certain times and get everybody in and stuff.
I wish you
Okay,
will.
good.
Yeah, so hopefully it needs a facelift. I mean, the kitchen,
Yeah.
Is there a
the
motion?
whole building was so old, it was time to literally kind of gut it and do it right, so.
Motion?
I would make a motion to approve the change.
Second.
Any further statements?
Nope,
All in favor?
thanks,
All
guys.
right, George, take
All right,
care.
we'll see you
George,
soon.
I'll send
Luck.
this, what I'm gonna do here, okay, so we're gonna have to call it down.
Sorry about that.
I understand.
That ABC.
It was a
Oh,
wrong
that's
day.
the number they
Yeah,
had.
yeah,
Wrong
they
place,
changed
wrong
the
time.
They changed it, and I put it this way.
Yeah, so I'll print up another.
How was that?
One tomorrow, okay? Maybe like mid-morning, okay?
If not, my wife just wanted to shot.
The rest of us need a
If not,
picture.
Later
if not
on.
Thursday.
That's
Either.
not fine, that's fine, 'cause I can just, yeah,
All
that's
right.
cool. All right, I'll have this all printed out, and then we can just fill it out again.
Okay, great.
Wonderful, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thanks, George. The next appointment's at 8:30, so we might want to get back to our normal.
Well, do we have bills
Oh,
and?
yeah, we do.
Yeah, we start from the beginning. Approval of the agenda.
We already approved it, didn't we?
No, we never got to the agenda.
We immediately went to the agenda rather than approving it.
On this one, do we all sign the same line?
Yeah, just start over on one side.
All right, great, thanks.
You here for more
I just need
action?
one
Brian?
signature.
I mean, you mentioned Rufus, so I thought I'd stick around,
Okay.
see if you're gonna cover it.
Just that I would tell the board that the hearing got continued to next month. That's it, that's the only.
You're not gonna have it tomorrow?
Say anything else?
No, the 12th of July.
July.
Oh, I thought it was the 12th of June.
No.
Not tomorrow.
I don't need to be here, you know?
Good.
What you want to do is on your sheet, just read the way it says right there.
Read these ones?
Yeah.
Okay, and these ones are
Those are
already
the ones,
signed.
see, yeah, those are the ones we're gonna,
Fine.
Will, are you here for?
So
Okay.
we do refer,
Okay.
and what's behind those is what's right here.
Okay.
You
Okay?
need to sign both sides of the selectmen.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Well, it's low cost, I'll tell you right now.
Geez, I didn't even check those. Gotta find you.
Okay.
Gordon, you all set?
To come back to Massachusetts, we're gonna have to have you.
I think we're all set, as long as Pam tells me we're all set.
Yeah.
I'll make the
Yeah,
motions.
I'll catch up with you if anything's, okay. so there you
Okay,
go.
so I move to affirm the approval of the following warrants and commitments. Withholding warrant number 108 for $128,212.73. Vendor warrant number 109 for $86,299.42. School warrant number 110 for $215,455.09. Ambulance commitment from May 20th, 2019 to May 26th, 2019 for $90,348.42. Ambulance commitment from May 27, 2019 to June 2nd, 2019 for $3,340.92.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
More stuff?
Yes, sorry. I move to approve the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 111 for $1,083,067. Vendor warrant number 112 for $108,598.40. Withholding warrant number 113 for $325,103.45, and the mobile home park fee number 6 for $5,160.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. You gonna do the selectmen bills? Move to approve the selectmen bills.
I move to approve payment of selectmen bills dated June 11th, 2019.
Is there a second?
No, he's got to read the bill.
Okay. So there's a bill to Inline Fence, Inc. for $2,992. $2,992.
Yes, that's
Okay.
for a repair or replacement of a fence over by the fire station from the storm back in March of 18.
Okay, and then bill that we print today for $6.
And that was for a set of public record requests.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks.
Do you want to do
Oh, you get about 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll see what can get done. Jericho Wallace of 597 on Ponce Street had sent the board a note complaining that his neighbors had placed stumps and other vegetation on his property. I did forward the note to the police chief. I don't see anything that the board can do other than what was just done. Mr. Wallace can file a criminal trespass complaint with the police department, but that's outside the board's jurisdiction. I know the chief is checking the files. There have been other incidents in that area before. And I know we'll be working with members of the department who might be more familiar with the situation there. So I'll let him, obviously if there's some reason that you want to report back at a later date, you can, but
Yeah, I looked at the file. He does have an extensive number of complaints, in the past, most of them in 2014. So he's been kind of quiet, and for some reason it's kind of brought it up again. We're going to just keep monitoring it right now. I was thinking about stopping by, but after reading some of his reports and his complaints, I think I might just want to leave things alone right now and see what happens.
Right.
If it gets worse, then I'll address it, because I think he's kind of looking for a confrontation.
Chapter 40B, Mass Housing's given a preliminary approval for the 30-unit Country Club Estates project. They're near the corner of Country Club Drive and Plymouth Street, sort of in the back, but not a lot in the back. This is so the developer is interested in continuing. The next step's going to be to file a comprehensive permit application with the ZBA. It's been a while since the ZBA dealt with one. I think the last one was the property on Franklin Street. That was probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. I'm going to need to go back to look up the set of procedures it uses. We got some changeover in the board, changeover in the staff there, and we need to go back through the files to find out how they handled the permitting process before. It does involve working with the state. They'll be able to get, if the application's filed, they'll be able to get, in essence, a grant from the state to hire consulting engineers and personnel to help the ZBA in reviewing the grant out, the permit application and such. And there'll be a whole series of hearings and notification of butters and everything like that. But it all depends on whether the developer actually files.
Nothing for us to take.
There's nothing, just so the board's aware of it, that's all.
So is the access to that the Country Club Drive, not 106?
I think I'd have to go check the plans.
106. I'm pretty sure.
I have the plans online. If you go to the ZBA website, on the website, there's a whole series of documents that were filed with the Mass Housing several months ago, and that includes the set of plans and would show where the access point is.
Thank you.
Rufus the dog, we mentioned the trial's continuing to July 12th at 9 as the judge decided to give Mr. Wilson an opportunity to retain counsel. In the meantime, the judge ordered Rufus not to leave the premises. So that's where that sits right now. Zoning bylaw committee, while the committee's not met, I don't have any particular interest in having it disband. That would be up to the board, and there's no reason for me to even ask the board to do anything with that. The committee still exists and could meet if it wants to. And certainly, make recommendations on any parts of the zoning bylaw. So that's up to the members about when they want to meet and what work they want to get done. Stormwater permit that got approved by the US EPA. The permit expires in 2022. Steve Hayward's going to have to file the annual report in September. Just there's correspondence there, so I wanted the board to be aware.
That's 8:30.
It's 8:30, so. Okay. You're on.
We have Mr. Olivero coming to suggest a project, doing my yard and
More community service. So, for my Eagle Scout project that I'm bringing forward to you, ladies and gentlemen, today, it's a military care package drop box for you to be placed in the town hall. First brought up by Mrs. Nobles, a member of Hobbs, and then later myself and Mr. Wilford have discussed little bits and tweaks of the box. I have plans here for you guys to pass around. And then also I have estimated material lists and costs for the Dropbox for all the payment planning and the fundraising I did myself throughout bottle drives and Christmas tree pickups, etc. And I have all of the planning and all of the procedures that will be needed taken in order to lead the scouts to help me to complete my path to Eagle.
Where would this be placed?
Yes, that was my question too.
In the building itself, or are you talking somewhere else?
Myself, and Mrs. Nobles discussed that there might be some space in the town hall, but we'd have to look at some spaces for that.
Is there any room, Will, down by your area down there?
Right over here, and we could probably fit it.
Where, I'm sorry, Will?
By the stairwell?
In front of the safe?
Over by my office and stuff.
So beyond the double doors?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my only concern. I think it's a good project, just whether we located someplace where it'd be accessible and, not gonna cause a mess.
Too much havoc in and out traffic,
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's going to be doing the collecting end of this? Is that you, Will? Or you're going to be...
I'll be doing some of it. Of course, the Boy Scouts themselves will be doing some of it too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, don't want the thing just filling up with stuff and then...
Now, what in fact will be going into the box itself besides?
So if you look at the top of the plans, it has 3 individual drawers with a mailbox style drawer, so people who are donating supplies wouldn't be able to get into the box itself. So it's simple lift up with piano hinges on the back. It's triangular and it drops right down. There are 3 compartments. For the first one is like snacks and small packaged goods. The second one is literature supplies and like cultural stuff like books and CDs. And the final one is toiletries, obviously for
Toiletries.
Really?
Yep. And then it will have 2 swinging doors in the front with the individual compartments.
So that you can take...
Yeah, you could take them right out, the bins right out.
So, let me get this straight, because I'm sure I'm going to be asked about it. Just books, some type of clothing?
We didn't really touch on clothing that much. We could always
Personal items?
put it in there for We're gonna have on the face of
Oh,
the,
don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should put clothes in there, I just want to know what your intentions were.
so we, for some like organizational stuff, we are gonna put laminated lists right on the face of each of the
Suggestions.
compartments for suggested items to be placed in the box.
That's a good thought.
Very good.
Nothing perishable.
No, yeah, right, exactly.
And then for the military design of it, we were originally gonna do the American flag, red, white, and blue, right on the front, and have that. And over the course of a couple Mondays that myself and Mr. Wilford met with, he had these unique, different branches of the military.
Oh, those are cool.
And these can be just cleaned up and mounted and painted right on the box.
Yeah, I like that.
That's awesome.
Who made those?
I won those.
You want them?
That's a good use for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect.
Absolutely.
It's excellent. So when do you feel you're gonna start on your project and when's completion?
The estimated start of it is myself.
After the mud fest.
Right after Sunday.
Myself and my Scoutmaster, Mr. Burgess, are going to be meeting with the Mayflower Council members.
Well, it sounds like a good Father's Day, chore to do it.
Absolutely.
I don't have any major issues with it. I think it's an excellent idea. My only thing would be where it's going to be placed and it's going to be accessible for people to get to easy enough.
Yeah, outside the doors makes it a little difficult to spot randomly.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we put a little sign on the doors,
Yeah.
arrows or something with it,
Well, we have the flag depository outside.
which is great.
It's been working out really well.
I mean, he's talking about stuff that can go
Right.
sent to some of the guys overseas, so.
Care packages type.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. That makes more sense to me now.
I'm good with it as long as we can locate it, and if that works,
Yeah.
Well, it's on wheels. I noticed that it's on wheels, so
Yes.
it's movable.
yeah.
Change it so. Gordon?
So you're gonna do any social media around town to try to get people to make donations into it and have like a time to
Yeah.
send out packages?
I was going to contact the paper to see if I could get a spot in the paper for publishing.
He was right behind you.
I'll get him on the radio too.
Yeah, cable will do it too on public service.
Well, he's right in front of us now, just cut me out of the picture, you'd be all right.
You've, in the past, we've had the boys open up GoFundMe pages. Like my son, Jake, he raised over $5,000 for that project out there in the playground.
Wow.
So, the town really came together and made a lot of donations, which was
Yeah.
very helpful for the scout. And Jake could possibly do that also. Because people like giving to a
Yeah.
big project like this. It
Yeah.
makes it visible too. So.
Yeah.
So, where is this gonna be, where are you gonna do all the building at, located at your home, or you gonna do it someplace else?
Yeah, we'll probably do it in either Scoutmaster's house. I have a couple boys there helping me out, or my house. That's any space that we could work with.
Well, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, absolutely seconded.
I will, further discussion? All in favor?
All right. Looking forward to seeing it.
Who made the motion?
Thank you once again. True, for making Halifax look great.
Good town.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
So how many more Eagle Scout candidates do you have? Because I like to be
So,
around.
I have, this is my 8th year, so I have another 18 months to 2 years, and at the end, I'll have 22 Eagle Scouts.
Wow.
small team in this town, yeah, great town, a lot of good kids.
Well, you guys have got, what, almost 37 Eagle Scouts that are already in your unit?
Oh, I bet there's more than that.
Well, I'm talking since I've been in.
Oh, yeah, easy. I mean, look, the record was always 20, like, the other leaders always had 18 to 20 Eagle Scouts per leader in this town. Tom Golrick and some of those guys.
Yeah.
And those were some big shoes to fill, Dick Campbell and all them, so I'm going for the full 22.
Well, that's my first one. My first one was the Camels,
Yeah, so you know.
the brothers. That was my first ceremony that I went to.
Statue? No.
That'll be Corey's first Eagle.
All right, thank you very much
Yeah, thank you.
for an awesome presentation. It's been sent in town, and like I said, as I said earlier, one more stitch in time making Halifax quality of life worthwhile.
Absolutely.
And if I offended anyone earlier, I apologize, Chief. But he did say.
I missed it. I missed it.
Just all the fun times.
Oh, God.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing like a dog hearing.
Does the board, do they have to sign any paperwork? Not right now?
No, we'll get it, I think, right? Yeah, I already signed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just double check, because I know some.
Can you
No,
get
usually in the past, we've always.
Right.
Can you get a federal grant since this is?
Yeah, just went a different route this time, but we just, it's good to let everyone know what's going on.
Very nice presentation.
Yeah. So you would be a lawyer in your next life?
No.
Polished, confident.
No, my next life. Okay.
Alrighty.
Gonna be an Eagle Scout, I can guarantee you that.
Well, there are a lot of state reps, senators, and even presidents that have been Eagle Scouts, so you're in good company.
I want to be a tank man.
Tank.
I keep leaving them on the stairs.
All right, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Charlie?
Sure.
I'm gonna go back. So see you on Sunday.
Want to take a 2-minute recess?
Yeah, 2-minute break.
No, you leave it open.
So I'm going back to the mail. I was going through my backlog of paperwork from before the town meeting. There's a bill, H66, that mostly deals with the question of dangerous persons, and I know the chief had provided some information about that a number of weeks ago. There was a hearing on the bill held by the House and Senate Judiciary Committee earlier in May. There's no action since then, but I didn't know if the board, I know the chief was interested in having the board get a letter to our legislature. This is the dangerous persons bill, H66.
Oh, yes.
Yes, getting a letter of support to our legislative delegation so that it would, I guess, place better restrictions would be the best way on persons who are potentially classified as dangerous persons.
Yeah, I reached out to all the people, like Representative Brady and Nanatra, you know, so, and they're both all very supportive of the bill. We've been getting really some good support through the reps and the senators, so I think hopefully, you know, just a little extra is not going to hurt. You know?
Right.
So if the board would want to, the board could send a letter of support to Representative Lenatra and Senator Brady.
I'd move that.
Is there a second? I didn't hear you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cyber awareness grant, Caesar had sent in the application for that. It's due by the end of this week, but this is for providing online training and simulations on cybersecurity for municipal staff, so it's no cost to the ward communities. And so I just wanted the board to realize we're working on something like that. On the school, let's see, next review session's not tomorrow, but next Wednesday at the 19th at 1:30 here in the Selectmen's meeting room. I know Steve Theron had talked a little bit about having meetings over at the school, but I think he's going to delay that until
They're actually
up and running there.
Okay.
So the next meeting's going to be here at 1:30 on the Wednesday, the 19th. The office trailer for the school office staff's been brought in so that it's ready for them to move in when they
Yeah,
need to.
it's sitting over there now. As long as it's there.
Scott Bancroft of Beeb Architects is checking with Matt Durkee to confirm all the items on the punch list for the doors, windows, sign project been completed. The construction company said, had done a checkoff list, but what Scott is asking for Matt to confirm everything's done, and we can finally close this project before we start the next one.
Yeah, because they presented at the meeting last Wednesday. Scott gave to Matt a copy of a 1-year warranty from the construction company. So that was one of the items.
On the doors section, the windows and siding had already been warranted previous because that work had been finished. Let's see. Back a few weeks ago, Steve Hayward and Susan Johnson have been in to talk to you about soft recyclables. What this is a contractor that will put out specially marked bins for curbside pickup, along where you have for the curbside trash and the normal curbside recycling.
These are going to be pink bags.
Pink bags for clothing and stuff like that, I think.
Fabrics.
So fabrics and other objects that might end up, instead of being in the trash stream and people then have to pay extra for that, they can end up in the recycling stream in essence. There's no cost to the town. In fact, we'll get $1 per pound.
Penny.
Penny per pound. Even $1 per pound would be great. But no, a penny per pound is at least something. So the board had talked with them, it was back in April, if I remember right, something like that. So the contracts are ready to sign. It would be a 3-year contract. And if the board wanted to approve, make sure who's going to be signing these.
It takes stuff out of the recycling stream for us.
It's helpful. Where is it? So it would be just, in this case, there's only room for one signature, so if the board would authorize the chair to sign.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I think it's like page 5 or 6 in there. Sorry, I should have marked it
Just
up.
get right as correct.
I know. More contracts. This one's with the chief for fiscal year 20. This was previously agreed upon terms. The appropriation was approved at town meeting. And the board had agreed with the request from the chief for some small incidental changes, like going to Foxborough once in a while.
What do I do?
July 28th.
There. Sorry. So in this case, it's for the entire board to sign the copies, so if the board would officially approve the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Have those sent down. Situation with the state budget, the Senate approved their version of the state budget. It's now going to House Senate Conference Committee. There's information from the MMA here about recommendations to encourage our legislative delegation and to approach those members on the conference committee, mostly about state aid and a few of the other changes that are included in the budget. It's up to, it won't, they're not going to get anything done immediately. My hope is they get stuff done by the end of the month. But if the board wanted to take a look at this and send a letter later on, it could, but it would have to be in the next couple of weeks. So, for instance, on special ed, charter school reimbursements, regional school transport reimbursements and such. Next contract is with Waste Management of New England. This is a 1-year contract for the household regular trash collection on curbside. Waste Management had taken over for Holland. We went out to bid this spring for this contract, and they were the low bidder for this contract. And so in this case, the board, it would be all the board signing it, so if the board would vote to approve that contract, and there is sufficient money, we made sure of it at town meeting.
We need to vote to approve the chief's contract first.
Oh,
We get a motion and a second, but
you didn't get a vote.
Didn't get a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then for the trash collection contract,
Everybody needs to sign this one?
yes.
So
So I
moved.
think it's probably in the way
Second.
back.
Okay, we got Amelia's, we got Andrews.
And is there a vote for the waste management contract?
We got that, we
Yes.
need a
We need-
AIF.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the trash contract and such, one thing that you had mentioned was trying to get some information through the Board of Health about the numbers of customers for each of the private services. I provide that information in my notes. Whoever's doing the work over at the mobile park, it's not included here, but if you add that number, which is a bit over 400, plus the numbers here, plus what we believe is about 1,800 households using the town's service, you get to about the 3,000. So we have a good idea about what the pie, sort of pie slices look like for the trash collection.
So do you get that many abatement requests?
No, we get fewer than 100.
Did you not sign this one, Troy?
I mean, some people might use the haulers for their trash collection, but for whatever reason, not recycling, or they just don't bother.
I think there's another place to sign too. Is there another page?
Not on the, there's only one page to sign for the trash collection and for the chief's contract. We're going to handle all the appointments 2 weeks from now. We were still waiting, Pam was still waiting to hear back from everybody as to whether they wish to.
Yeah, did you guys look at your list? I'm sorry, did you guys look at your list? Was there anybody on there that you?
Any questions, concerns about?
Anybody that you didn't want to?
I looked at the list, I didn't see any concerns except for the planning committee.
Which plan? I'm sorry, I'm missing something. The zoning bylaw committee?
Zoning bylaw committee.
Pam, you're contacting them also, right?
Well, that's what I said. There was another one. That's why I was.
Because they may be an indefinite
I think
appointment.
they're open.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to take a look. If they're not on that list, then they're open now.
There's 2 signature pages on this contract.
Well, okay, then.
Larry signed a different one. Does that
Okay,
matter?
Larry signed one because I get a fax or actually an email from him with his signature.
Okay.
So you only have to sign one of them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Much of the time, we just have 2 signature pages. Larry just signs his copy, and then we get everybody else to sign the other copy, and it works. Let's see, Pasture Lane, the planning board did meet with the new developers. There's one lot there to go for construction. They still need to complete the work on the road. We met with them last Thursday. The developers are interested in completing the project, and the planning board's requested they provide monthly updates. So maybe we'll see progress there. On the Cherry Street stop sign, instead of putting up an LED stop sign, the highway surveyors added another stop sign, so it's now on both sides of the streets, both the left and the
So
right.
both directions are ready to come in.
So, well, you'll see if you're driving down Cherry Street to the T intersection
Yeah.
of Walnut, you'll see stop signs on either side of the street. You'll also see this
Does the chief
here
sign
and
these?
here to provide an indication, hi, you can't go any farther, you got to stop and make a decision whether to make a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn. So we're hoping that that's, we don't need the LED type sign. Harbor to Bay Bike Ride, the annual ride will be on September 14th, 2019. This is going to be the 17th edition of the event. There have been problems in previous years. The organizer would like to have the official take from the board to come through Halifax between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. that day. And they're planning on using the Route 58 boat ramp as a pit stop. And Pam had notified the chiefs, and they have no concerns about it.
Yeah, well, I'm still waiting for, I received something from Chief Shabs, but I didn't hear anything from Chief.
Well, at this point, but it's been 2 weeks since you said
Yeah,
that.
it's on
you should
that,
have one
so
on
I
both
can
sides.
contact them on that. The board's going to
add
do it
it,
right
add it.
now.
Well, I'd like to move it
Wait,
along.
I'll move on, that's fine.
That's all right. And Jason had an opportunity to,
Yeah, and I'll double check with him.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's
right.
not an issue, it never has been.
so if the board would approve the bike ride?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We had a letter from Attorney Lennon Copeland, who switched firms going from KP Law, which is the firm he helped found several decades ago, to Brooks and DeRensis. Currently, the town
Really?
Yes. Currently, the town uses Brooks and DeRensis for all the land use matters before a certain date, and then there's a switch over so that KP Law has been handling all the land use matters after that date. Unless the board has an interest in switching firms, there's no action needed. The board had received that letter, and I want the board to be aware of it.
So it's now going to become Brooks, Durensis, KP Law?
I don't know what, I think It's sort of like the companies that have changed from the long name to the acronym name. And now the acronym technically doesn't mean anything. So KP Law, it was Copeland and Page.
Right.
And then they changed it to KP Law, which I believe is going to be what it is, even despite that Len is left. Maybe we'll get a letter from them saying they've
They're
changed
just
their
P.
name.
Too much legal
Well, it
ease.
just looks
Yeah,
awkward
it's
because
weird, yeah.
Brooks Durensis / KP Law.
Well, and so I don't know what Brooks Durensis is going to do either in terms of how they're going to, if they're going to incorporate Len into their name, or they're just,
All right, well, we'll sort it out later.
As long as they do it necessary to keep us above water.
It just seems silly, that's all.
Okay, so we got that done. One more
Two
contract.
copies from municipal electricity.
Right, so we have the electricity aggregation program that we've been running from the last couple of years. We've been using Colonial Power as the management firm for the management of the agreement and for doing publicity, and if people have questions, they can call them about the aggregation program. That contract is up for renewal. What they get paid through the electricity bills, it's 0.001 cents. Is it, or is it? Yeah, I think so. Let me make sure here.
You have point
0.001
per
kilowatt.
Yeah, so it'd be one, I think it's, yeah, it says 0.001 per kilowatt hour for each kilowatt hour purchased by the participating consumer. So that's how, we don't pay them, like the folks who are participating in the program pay through their light bills. They've done a fine service. I mean, I don't get any complaints. Every once in a while, somebody calls up with questions about the program. We have information on the town's website. We give them, the information about opting out or opting in, along with the information to, be able to contact Colonial. But I haven't had any complaints from anybody about Colonial at all or the program. So my recommendation at this point would be to continue the management agreement with them. If the board would decide to do that, they would need a motion to approve the contract and for the board to sign it.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
In this case, everybody signs, it's the last page. Where are we now? Okay, so proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Back in May, the town meeting was unable to vote on the proposed zoning bylaw amendments, including the following: allowing recreational marijuana establishments in the business commercial district, not allowing them within 300 feet of any residentially zoned land, correcting the definition of a marijuana establishment that's currently in the bylaw, changing renewal every 5 years for special permits for in-law apartments to review, instead of renewing them, reviewing them, adding multifamily developments to the list of uses. It's currently we only have multifamily dwellings in the list of uses. Then adding specific uses for use regulations for multifamily dwellings, because we only have them for multifamily developments. And updating the definitions for both the multifamily dwellings and multifamily developments, allowing single-family dwellings to be reestablished as a use on lots where that use had been discontinued or abandoned.
Simplified.
Simplified, everything that was brought to town meeting aside from the proposed
Couldn't be voted on.
Right. So my recommendation to the board is that the board resubmit all those articles to the planning board. That starts the process again so that they can have a public hearing on those and then make a recommendation to a future town meeting. I'm leaving the sign bylaw out because having talked to land use council about this, given the various court decisions and given how antiquated the sign bylaw is at this point, it may be better to just do a comprehensive change, redo of the bylaw. We have a couple of examples from other towns, and I would bring those back to the board for review. And if the board wanted to do something, we could then submit that to the planning board at a later date. There may be other things that we'll have at a special town meeting sometime in the future. For instance, we still have the pilot agreement if they ever get something settled with the Board of Assessors for River Street. Gordon had mentioned, for instance, the parking requirements on the commercial properties. And now we're running into this situation, for instance, over Riley's, where a large part of the building is storage rather than retail.
Yeah, and that's a good, valid point. I actually had a discussion with a member of the planning board about that same subject, because it doesn't make sense to call that all real retail space. A perfect example of that is Walmart with 1,000 parking
places.
spots.
So I had talked to Charlie about that. So the question with Walmart is how much is actually storage there and how much is
Well,
retail?
not a whole lot, but even with the retail end of it, it needs to be looked at a little bit. I mean, thankfully, there was an accommodation made where it was left, a lot of it was left green area out behind the building, because technically that's all parking lot.
So all behind the building?
It's all parking
spots.
There's a layout of more spaces out there. And, you know, a perfect example is on a Friday night when they have the Friday night cruisers there, even with the cruisers there.
They park out back.
But there's
They're
no.
still on asphalt, they're not on grass then?
Oh, they're on the grass too. But that's a separate kind of.
That's where they want to be, not where they're required to be?
Well, they're on the side of the building, but a lot of the overflow and people that don't actually have cruisers but are there to participate, park on the grass to not take up parking spots in the front. But even at that, there's still hundreds.
On the left-hand
hundreds of
side of the
parking
building,
spots left.
there's still at least 200 parking
Yeah,
spaces that aren't taken.
And on that, unless the board wanted me to start doing it on my end, we could refer the matter either to both, go back to planning board and to the
I think it would be.
zoning bylaw committee to say, hey, if you want to take a look at this might be something to be talking about too, and making a proposal to town meeting.
Is there a way to have a joint meeting with planning board and zoning to talk about
Yes,
this?
and they could. Just, there's been issues over the past several months that why they haven't been meeting or. But yeah, and that was discussed at the very first meeting, was that there could be joint meetings between the planning board. But I think if they both talk about it a little bit independently, I think that adds to a more robust discussion in a joint meeting.
And you might, if you want, you can ask me to contact OCPC and see if there have been sort of, it's probably been.
If they have any guidelines.
Well, yeah, in the sense of, I suspect, I don't know right offhand, but my guess is if they don't predate me coming in, the parking sections are relatively in the neighborhood of, more than 20 years old. And whether, as you just mentioned, there have been updates to say, okay, the guidelines, so many parking spaces, or so many, one space per X number of square feet of retail. Has that changed for the guidelines during that time?
Well, our number of 1 per 100 was an arbitrary number, and having been there and lived through it, it was really an attempt to limit the amount of big box stores.
So that they had to spend more area for parking each time they wanted to be bigger.
Which was counterproductive, because we really don't want all that pavement.
So would it give Walmart an opportunity to expand the store and provide more things in the store so you don't have to drive to Plymouth to get the things that you're looking for?
That was part of the, I mean, you had to go back to the mentality in the early 90s and middle 90s.
Well, a good portion of the town didn't want Walmart.
No, exactly, yeah.
They were really against Walmart, so it was put under the microscope as to what was given and what wasn't given.
How fortunate we were as a small town, a small community, rural community, to have two, not the hugest big box stores, but at least they're not on the street. You're not looking at 15 acres of parking lot. They're both set back. You really have to look for them to find them.
They're on the rise.
So, I can check with OCPC, I can refer this both to planning and the zoning bylaw committee. I can suggest to both committees that they might have a joint meeting about it.
Yeah.
That meets with, forgetting about everything else from it, if that would meet with the board's approval, I can do that.
I'd support that.
I don't have any problems with it.
Do you want it in the form of a motion?
That'd be helpful.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Now, on the bylaw changes that were brought at town meeting, what is the board's pleasure or how to handle those? One thing I did mention is we did receive, I think it's at least 2 petition articles for a town meeting. I don't think it's fair to the petitioners to have them go through the process of resubmitting the signatures again. They did the work initially. None of the fact that town meeting didn't vote on it is not, they have no blame.
Well, there's nothing's changed. I mean, they still remain status quo because they weren't voting on anything. It's as if they just submitted them.
Right, but I
Well,
believe,
technically, we passed over and...
well, in a sense, yes, but not really. We
Well, no,
specifically took no
we did,
votes on
right,
it.
we took no action.
But
That's right.
what I'm trying to avoid also is that having gone through this cycle once, in the sense of that it's better to start clean, resubmit the articles as is to the planning board so that the calendar that's attached to the zoning statutes or on the state side can start going
Clicking
away.
down again.
With the hope that we would have a town meeting probably sometime in September or October, depending on the timing issues and holidays and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think they should be made to go through the process again. They did what they needed to do.
Nor do I.
The town dropped it on its end.
So on all these articles, is the board, what would the board like to do?
I'd send them to both,
To appropriate boards.
Well, in this case, they'd go to the planning board for hearing. I have no
Yeah.
problem sending them over to the zoning bylaw committee for their review, for
Yeah,
their
whatever commentary
viewpoint
they
or
want.
whatever, but
The only one I have an issue with is that there's no limiting to the multifamily developments. There's nothing in that, if that change would make it so there's no limit. So what
Limits
Country Club was proposing previously, they could have a unit for every acre of the country club. There's no,
Right.
there's so, I
well,
don't,
there was nobody had suggested changing the number of units per acre.
at
If
that.
somebody wants to do that, if the board wanted to do that, I'd be happy, we could get a by, as long as the board gave me some direction, I can write it up, because, and send it
That's open for
to.
discussion.
I think the limiting factor on the multifamily developments is each building has to be on a separate lot. So that limits the development.
But that's a subdivision, that's not.
Yeah, but that's only because of the way that the person's proposing it. Because if you took that and you put it on one building, you could do it on one building. It's the developer's perspective to say that they want multiple buildings. So if you want multiple buildings, you should have multiple lots. If you want it on one building, then you should have one building. I don't think that this allowing more buildings to go in gives the town, especially when it comes to the 40B number, it doesn't help the 40B at all.
Well, 40B is totally out of,
Right, but I don't think that adding the number of dwelling units that you could get out of these developments, as opposed to doing a subdivision, is a good thing for the town.
I'm not sure how the changes would do that.
If you make it so that there's no limit to the number of buildings, then you can get in.
Again, I'm not sure how these proposed changes do that.
Because you're taking away the requirement that each building be on a separate lot.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that was the change for the multi-family developments. Do you have a
Well,
copy of that?
I think you've got to take
well, it's
time to
not,
read
it's not
those.
anything
Yeah.
we're going to discuss here anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to discuss it in a couple of weeks, but the definitions change, but the requirement that you're mentioning is in a separate section of the bylaw. It's not in the definitions.
It just seemed like they conflicted at that point when you were reading them, because it says that they can be all on one lot. I'll review it with you. if
Well,
that's
sure.
okay.
But if the board wanted to hold on, okay, so which one are we talking about? Which
The
proposed
the change of the definition.
Okay, so if the board wanted to, it could set that one aside and send everything else that went to that it brought to town meeting up to the planning
Why don't we
board.
do that? And that gives you an opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah, and then an opportunity to air it out too.
Definition, interpretation.
You want a
Okay,
revised
anything
motion?
else, Gordon?
Pardon?
Do you want a revised motion?
Yes, please,
So moved with the exception of the
the definition.
definition of multifamily developments.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Let's see, I'm sorry, chief.
It's exciting stuff.
I know. The Mont Ponce DPH grant, I need authorization by the board for me to sign the new amended contract for fiscal 19. Basically, we're reallocating the money that the $125,000 DPH gave us for Mont Ponce. And since that's an amendment to the contract, I need to sign an amendment to the contract. Now the board authorized me to do that. Anything we're going to spend is going to have to be done by June 30th. 125 disappears on that day.
I would move that myself.
Because it's connected to the state budget for fiscal 19. Just like us, if we have the budget here.
So you have to encumber that money?
I can't even encumber it, I have to use it.
We can't.
Luckily, we're still getting the treatment done and we're going to get the muscle study
Yeah,
done.
but not on both lakes.
Yeah, not on both lakes. We'll get the treatment done on West Mont Ponce.
East Mont Ponce, we gotta check the
muscle
muscles.
So that means that we're gonna lose some of that grant?
More than likely, we're going to lose some of it, depending on how DPH looks at things.
Okay. I would move to allow Charlie to sign the contract.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And just the board, to update the board, there's no real action to take, but last week, House 3825 was approved by the state, by the Massachusetts House. This is a bill about union rights. This is basically a response to the Janus decision from the last couple of years at the Supreme Court. What they've done is, the major thing in my mind was more to do with setting up a fee system so that if you're not a union member, but you're covered by that contract, which is how it can be set up, if you want to have a matter go to a grievance or an arbitration hearing or something, you're going to be charged, meaning the employee will be charged by the union a certain amount. It's not between us and the union, it's between the employee and the, but along with that, the Mass House then said, okay, while we're doing this, we're going to say lots of personal information shall be given the union. And they can use our town's email system, right? Bizarre. And they can use town property for various union meetings, and so on and so forth. Now,
they actually passed that?
Yes,
Where
easily.
we were forced to allow them to use the property?
Yes.
For meetings and stuff?
Yes. Now, there were amendments to try and restrict those things. It lost on basically party line votes. The entire legislation, once all those votes on the amendments were done, I think it was 155 to 1. So this is going to go. It's going to go to the Senate. It's going to get passed by the Senate. Our only hope is maybe we get some tweaks in there.
The town has no more sovereign, I mean, when it comes...
Well, the state says not, we don't. So I wanted the board to be aware. I find the whole email thing to be bizarre, as an example. And I'm happy to contact Senator Brady about it, but I don't think it's going to prove to be fruitful nevertheless.
Yeah, but what happens, they've taken our negotiating abilities
On those matters.
On those
Yes.
matters.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the,
So was that something before that was part of the contract to say you can have a space in the building?
yes. Not that they did, we didn't have it in any of our contracts. It was never negotiated. Now, does it mean that there might have been times when the officers met in the police station or the firefighters met? We never knew about it and it never came up as a subject. It's not in the contract. I don't pay any attention to what happens there on a certain evening or whatever. So
when they vote the contract, are they using a room at the station?
I don't know.
they might be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No, I
if you were saying
don't
that
pay
was-
attention. No, I mean, I just don't pay attention to that in the sense of, the thing is that if they've been doing so, even if it isn't in the contract, unless we then specifically put it in the contract that they couldn't, then they would go back on past practice. Now what's the situation is it won't matter whether it's past practice because this legislation will be approved and they'll say, well, we have the same rights, for instance, as the Boy Scouts to use the Great Hall on the same basis. So if we're charging the Boy Scouts, we can charge the union. If we're not charging the Boy Scouts, we can't charge the union.
Okay.
So that was not, I mean, like I said.
But they're not a nonprofit organization.
Well, I understand. But, I mean, that was the least of my worries that they use the town space. I mean,
As long as they weren't using town time.
right, well, that's the major thing. So I did want, if the board wants, I can contact Senator Brady about a few of these things, because
It's already passed the House now.
it's going to easily pass the Senate,
Yeah.
so. Town Hall asbestos, some good news, testing came back negative. So Caesar's notified the cabling contractor, and we can get the work started after July 1st. So that was good news. There is a carryover request for Justin Keeley from the Highway Department for 40 hours. The union contract allows them to carry over up to 40 hours, but then the board has to approve that. So I need a motion from the
Their
board.
motion. We typically.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, and we have a whole bunch of line item transfers. I'm going to read them off. $11,848.30 from group insurance to law, $2,500 from trash collection recycling center wages, $69.50 from trash collection and recycling center expense, $1,089 from insurance to law, $111.53 from insurance to town reports, $5,337.40 from insurance to law, $4,043.38 from insurance to law. Yes, okay. $5,000 from fire wages, full-time to fire vehicle maintenance, $9,000 from snow and ice to Article 30 of the annual town meeting of 18 for the highway garage doors, and $6,613.73 from ambulance billing to police expense. The board, in a couple of cases, the finance committees approved those because they had been presented to the finance committee when they met last week. In most cases, the finance committee's yet to approve them because they only came in during the last week. So, and then these would go, if the board approves them, to the finance committee for their meeting next Monday.
You want a motion?
You may want to make a motion for everything besides the law account, and then make a motion on the separate transfers for the law account.
Okay, so moved. I'll move the line item transfers for everything except to the law account.
Second.
All in favor?
And then to move the other line item transfers to the law account.
I move the line item transfers to law.
So should I not second
Yeah, you
those?
just,
Okay.
I'll second that one. All in favor? Aye. One abstention.
and then couple of other items. 407 South Street, the Gamble property, the Selectmen's office had received a complaint about the property not being mowed, and there are objects that are containing rainwater. If it's okay with the board, I'm going to ask Steve Hayward to go out and have the lawn mowed since he has the mowers, and have Scott Materna, if he could have his crew go out there, and if they find any standing water, containers of standing water, just get them tipped over so that they don't, when it rains, continue to gather water for mosquito control purposes.
Are we able to add that expense to?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
I'll ask Steve and Scott to itemize the time, and so we'll add that to the bill if we end up, one way or the other, selling the property or having the property redeemed.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We talked about Fieldstone Farm horse shows a couple weeks ago. I don't know that the board wants to do something tonight, if the board wants to carry this over to next month.
I read the previous one, I didn't read the one from Larry, so carry it over.
Okay, so we'll carry it over until 2 weeks from now. Revocation hearing for the country club, we already did that. Revocation for Twin Lakes, we did that. Pam, you have items?
No,
Any live entertainment permits, street openings?
no.
Okay.
No, nothing.
Okay. Then I would recommend that the board go into executive session to deal with all the waterman grievances. I believe, so it's the heavy equipment operator grievance, the public documents grievance, the 2-week suspension grievance, the termination grievance, and then also to discuss the patrol officer grievance concerning starting dates for employees. The chief thankfully has stuck it out. We'll come into executive session with the board if the board would like.
I would move that.
Second?
Gordon?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Troy, yes.
And we not be
And
coming
we
back
will
into
not be
public
coming back
session
into
and no
public
other
session. There
announcements.
will be no announcements or statements made.
Good to know.